things I cover in chapter 4 of my book that is available to pre-order but won't be released until February 2026. But I am absolutely over the moon to have it listed on Waterstones. I feel like I've peaked in life. That's a bit like a dream, really. It doesn't seem very real. I think what I might do when it's published is actually go and find where they stock it, even if I have to travel really far, and go and buy myself a copy of my own book from Waterstones. I think that sounds like something I would really enjoy, and we are all about doing things that bring us joy around here. So the 4th chapter of my book, this evening we're going to be looking at the first year without school. It is a ride. It's complex, and I tried to draw a diagram in the book. So the book has lots of kind of visual diagrams where I try and explain concepts in words, but I also put them into a diagram because that's something that I find useful, having something visual. And I know that it helps to do things like break up text as well, and is a nice reference if people are just not reading everything word for word, but picking up the book and having a flick through, to have visuals throughout. And I tried to do this visual that showed the complexities of the first year without school in terms of the roller coaster that it is, because some people feel relief, some people feel excitement, some people feel freedom, some people feel joy, some people feel really relaxed, some people feel really stressed, some people feel overwhelmed, some people feel a bit at sea, and you can feel all of those things at any given moment in any given day, and you can feel those things to various degrees. So they can be really strong, strong feelings, they can be really overbearing feelings, they can be things that are really all-encompassing, or they can just be like a light touch, and it comes and goes. And I try to draw this diagram to represent the of feelings, but of course not everybody feels and you can't really write that down in words either. Some people are much more steady and go with the flow, and any given day and any given moment can feel different. But what I really wanted to do as well was point out that whilst you're feeling one thing in one moment on one day, your partner might be feeling something else, and your child or your children are all going to be feeling all those similar things, but at different points. And when you put those all together, it can look very messy, and it can look very overwhelming, and quite challenging, because as the parent, you're not only being aware of your own feelings and your response to those feelings, and maybe observing where they're from, and trying to understand and get to grips with, we talked a little bit yesterday about learning something new, unlearning our social conditioning, our experience, things we've long held to be true, the scripts that we carry around with us, the narratives that we play in our head, and unlearning all of that and learning something new to replace them with. Not only are we doing that for ourselves, we're walking alongside our partners as they're doing that as well, and the things that they're grappling with at any given time might be different to yours, but you're also holding space for your child in that first year, for your child to recover from their school experience. And again, that's going to look completely different for your child to the next child, because it's going to depend on what their experience was, the depths of the challenges they had, the way that they feel about shifting out of school, where they experience difficult things, and the depth of the impact that that had on them. So as well as holding your own emotional roller coaster, as parents we are also holding our children's emotional roller coaster. So one day we might get up and think, oh my gosh, the weather's glorious and we don't have to go to school and this is amazing, we should go down to the beach and just hang out on the beach all day, or we should go to the park, or take our bikes out. Anything. You might be really excited about this new opportunity, but the reality is your child might still be feeling really overwhelmed with even the idea of leaving the house. And so this chapter really tries to bring into focus the complexities of that first year without school, and to talk about all the different threads of the things that are going on, because that change happens very quickly. The learning curve in that first year is really steep, and there is a lot going on a lot of the time, even if your child doesn't appear to have a lot going on, even if they are, you know, deep in recovery, really boiled down to just not a few words and lying on the sofa and watching YouTube or a TV series. Even if it appears there's not much happening, the turmoil that can create within us as the parents, that can be quite adventurous, or quite the adventure. Really trying to navigate how we feel about that, and the things that we can do that are going to support our children whilst they are going through that process. Because we are all about supporting our children. We are not about, as some people may have been told from schools, for example, and we do hear this, not making their life easy, make their life more difficult. Make their life more difficult at home, and then they'll want to come to school. That's the kind of narrative, and that's the narrative we hear like across everything. Make the child change, make the child do the work, and we really flip that on its head in unschooling, and we really lean into, what does my child need? Do they need blankets? Do they need me just to provide food and put it in front of them? Do they need me to sit and watch Demon Hunters with them over and over and over and over again? You know, do they need me to read to them, or get them their favourite drink, or make sure we've always got their favourite foods in the cupboard? What is it our children need? And really leaning in to helping our children in any way that they need help with. Yesterday I talked a little bit about helping, you know, my child get dressed when he was 8, 9, 10 years old, because that's what he needed. It's very countercultural, and it definitely goes against the expectations of that society holds around our children and what they should be doing. So that's chapter 4. That first year without school. And I think, like, I've entitled it the first year without school, but I think I make it clear in there that this can go on longer for a year than a year. There have been some discussions historically about how long the process takes before you and or your child are really immersed in unschooling without the constant kind of pressure of, what am I doing, where am I going, why do I feel like this, if this isn't true, what are we doing, if that's not true about learning, you know, what is the truth about learning, how can we do things differently if we're not doing school. The constant emotions that brings up, and the questions and the learning for us as adults. So there's historically been conversations about how long that process takes. I think from my point of view, there is always things that we need to be questioning and unlearning and relearning about how we think life and relationships and education and a whole bunch of other things work. But what I will say is the intensity of like how many questions we're battling at once, and our familiarity and comfort with the process really changes. And that's for me is the key thing. It doesn't feel quite as a wild ride anymore. It's really clear, you know, personally, my personal experience is it's really clear when something comes up that I think, oh, I feel a bit uncomfortable about that, and it doesn't send me into a tailspin, because it becomes familiar, and I go, oh, that's something I need to, let's give space for that. Let's ask some questions about why I feel uncomfortable. You know, let's reach out to other people. Let's see what they're doing and their perspective. And it just becomes a part of the process and becomes a lot more comfortable and familiar, and not something to be tossed around by on a day-to-day basis. So it just gets easier in that respect. But certainly the first year is really there's a really steep learning curve for everybody, and certainly this process of recovery, particularly for our children, but also for yourself, if your experience with even as an adult with school has been poor. I'm going to use the word poor. You know, there is recovery time to be had, and that is part of the process. And I was thinking the other day, in the words of a well-known children's book, you can't avoid it, right? So the well-known children's book says you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you can't go around it, you got to go through it, and it really is worth going through it. It really is worth kind of doing that work, and rising to the challenge of all the things that suddenly being out of school provides to you. But it's also really worth all those joyful moments and what people call like the freedom and the walking away and the relief, and the excitement about doing something new as well. That's all part of it. It's not all doom and gloom for the first year. There's so much to explore when you first come out of school. There's so many opportunities, if you're willing to see the opportunities in everything. So whether that is like if you've got a child who's really active and wants to go out all the time, whether you've got a really strong and large local homemade community, or whether you are staying at home and just nurturing all the lovely things, no matter how insignificant others might say they are. If it's something that brings joy and your child is curious about, then those are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things to be tapping into, especially in that first year when you begin to see the change in your child and the little spark coming back, and the moments of calm and the moments of relief and the little smiles here and there. All those things make a massive difference to your first year. To your first year without school. One of the things that happens in the first year, I think, is there is a move, particularly if you already know that you're moving towards unschooling, but even if that's not something you're sure about and it's just you're home educating, that's what you've decided you're going to be doing, there is always a shift with families in that first year where they move further towards like autonomy, like our children having more autonomy over what they're doing, and when allowing our children to have a voice, for them to be able to say, yes, I like doing this, no, I don't like doing that, or yes, I do want to do this today, but no, I don't want to do it tomorrow. Like just having them be able to have a voice and have someone listen to them, moving them to tuning into what it is that they do and they don't like, and being able to explore those things for themselves. In unschooling we call this self-determination, and it's kind of just building that element of choice that children have over, well, in unschooling, moving towards everything in their lives. Certainly when we started out, I was very aware that children were fully capable of learning. They didn't need anybody to teach them stuff. They knew what they wanted to do. In fact, I saw someone the other day saying, well, how do young children know what they're interested in? And as a parent of 4 children who haven't had someone directly telling them what to do all the time, they've had plenty of opportunities, they've had lots of things offered to them, but no one has said this is what you are doing. And as a parent of 4 children, I can tell you they know whether something is what they want to do or not, and they're all different. My eldest was absolutely immersed in Lego for years and years and years. Lego, Minecraft, den building, using giant cardboard boxes to make things. It was all very building. That's what he did. And when he used Lego, for example, he never wanted to use the instructions. He never used instructions. He would always just take whatever Lego pieces he had and he would create something out of those Lego pieces. That was always his focus. It has shifted and changed since then, which has been really interesting. But he does still enjoy Minecraft, so it must be like 14 years later now. He does still enjoy that. I've got one of my daughters is very into arts and crafts. You know, I tell this story, I might even tell it in the book actually, that, you know, like I said, we've always had things available, so we've always had art and craft supplies available for the children, but my eldest two basically ignored them, beyond building things with cardboard boxes. They basically ignored all the paints and the beads and the felt and the sewing and multitude of stuff in that category. And then along came my third, and by the time she was 2 or 3 years old, she was, you know, drawing on the walls. That was a thing. Drawing on paper, she was painting, she was just prolific. She went through basically the entire stock that had sat there for about 5 years, or maybe less, but a couple of years, and she went through the entire stock in a couple of weeks, because that's what she was drawn to. And I don't overly know the science behind, well, how do they know what they're interested in, but they know what they're drawn to, they know what they want to give a go, they know what that you know, fills their bucket and lights their spark. There is a chapter on our role as parents, and one of the parts of our role as parents is kind of making sure they're open to opportunities, so that they can do the things that they enjoy, and they can try new things, and they can say that was amazing, or I'm just never doing that again, or somewhere in between. Maybe they just want to do it for a little while, and then it falls by the wayside. Because in unschooling, it isn't actually about what they are doing. It is this lighting this fire of curiosity, this self-determination, them having autonomy and choices, and being able to exercise that autonomy and that choice themselves, going through that process is really valuable. So it doesn't actually matter what your child is learning. So whether you've got a child who loves Pokemon Go, or a child who loves Lego, or a child who loves horse riding, it's about the process of learning in and of itself, not about what they're learning, particularly when they are young children. So it's really about shifting, particularly in that first year, shifting from being externally motivated, so being externally told this is what you're going to learn and we're going to make you learn this by telling you you're going to get a star at the end of it, or a certificate at the end of it, or an award at the end of it, and then that award becomes the reward becomes the point of learning. Doing it for the reward, not doing it for learning's sake, and not doing it because you enjoy it. You're learning that thing because someone's going to give you a prize at the end of it. That's external. The prize, the sticker, the praise, the certificate, the medal, that's an external reward for doing, for participating in the learning. And we're shifting in that first year through recovery, which is a very, very important stage and mustn't be skipped, through recovery towards this internal motivation. What do I like doing? What brings me joy? What lights my fire? What brings me sparkle during the day? What things do I want to have a go at, or try out, or play with, or watch, or do? And it becomes from within themselves. And so exercising that autonomy, the choices, being able to make choices, and having someone listening to them, and having the opportunities available to them, even if they say no, knowing that those opportunities are there and they can come back round to them if they want to. That intrinsic, so from within themselves, that motivation to participate in, playing a game, watching a TV show, walking the dog, going to a museum, playing on the beach, going to the swimming pool, meeting up with friends, any of that, if it comes from within them, that's what we're really aiming for, them being able to exercise choice, basically. One of the things that I used to think was that at some point my children's learning would develop into kind of school type learning, a project that got finished, or a worksheet, or a collection of worksheets, maybe even a workbook, or they might choose a class that was particularly schooly. Over on the continent, Scandinavian countries are well renowned for not introducing formal learning until children are over the age of 7, and I bought into that idea. I thought that maybe by the time my children are 7 they would naturally choose to do something that looked more akin to school, and I did on and off try and introduce worksheets or lap books. They used to be quite popular in the home ed communities, so they were project based lap books. You can look them up, they look beautiful, but alas my children really rejected talking about choosing and allowing them to have the element of choice. They really rejected anything that looked like that, or just got ignored, really. Maybe rejection might be a bit of a strong word. Just got ignored, or kind of side-eyed. I got side-eyed if I suggested it, because quite honestly they were having too much fun, and we don't pull away from too much fun. They were having too much fun living their lives and doing the things they loved. The idea that with hindsight, the idea that they would swap that for sitting down and doing some sort of workbook is actually really entertaining to my mind. It's not where they were at. They were, and they never were. I mean, my eldest is 18 now, and then my 16-year-old, and they've never done a workbook or a school type project. Okay, so they've done their own things. They now complete their own things. If they say they're going to draw a comic strip, they now complete it. Once upon a time, they would have got a bit in and then it would have fallen by the wayside and they would move on to something else. But they now complete projects of their own, from their own intrinsic, motivated selves, with things that are meaningful to them. They now do complete those, but it doesn't look the same way as a school project might look. Yeah, so it's fascinating to me just to reflect back on how far even I've come with my thinking about what's okay and what's not okay. In fact, there's very little that is not okay anymore. But my expectations, the impact that's had on my youngest, for example, is that now I didn't ever introduce her to a workbook. They kind of still sat on the shelves, but it's not. She's too busy. She's too busy doing the things that she loves doing. She's really into anything kind of physical, so she likes swimming and horse riding and hobby horsing and trampolining and dance and cheer and gymnastics and riding her bike. Lots of physically active things to do. So observing that knowledge about her and understanding that about her, I know that a workbook is not going to be up her alley, shall we say. So the first year without school, I guess, is remembering that it is a steep learning curve for parents, for you, and that alongside that, the complexity is that our children are also in recovery as well. So we have to hold space for our children to be in recovery. We have to hold space for our own learning and the changes and the shifts that we're going through as we take on the responsibilities of home educating and unschooling. And at the same time, really leaning into enjoying ourselves and embracing this new opportunity that you have to do things that really nurture your child, that bring joy to your family, that release you from the expectations of school and normalcy, and being able to embrace all that holds for you as a family, and doing it, and not, I guess my top tip really is not feeling the pressure to rush, and not taking everything on board all at once, not overwhelming yourself, like trying to navigate it within your capacity, so that the work that you're doing and the changes that you're making can be really deep and meaningful. Tomorrow I am not going to be here live at 8 o'clock because Thursday is the Unschooling Village Hub live meet night. We do something different every Thursday. Tomorrow night is a social gathering. It's called Tea and Chat. Just to hang out with other unschooling families, to make connections, and to celebrate and share and talk about anything anybody wants to. It's really relaxed, and so if you're around for that and you're a Village Hub member, I will see you tomorrow. If not, I will be back here on Friday with Nicola Leyland, who's going to come and join me as one of the beautiful contributions to the book. I'm very grateful for her coming and sharing her story, and she is going to come and join me on Friday, and we're going to talk about trusting our children. So it's going to be really juicy, really meaty. So I will see you then. Thank you for joining me. Have a good evening.
Are you curious about unschooling and want to know more? Perhaps you're on the edge of starting this adventure, or maybe you've been doing this a while, but you're looking for inspiration. After more than 13 years of unschooling 4 children and over 5 years supporting others on the same path, I have a vast library of resources that I'm happy to share with you for free, whatever stage of your journey you're in. You can check out the link in the description of the podcast, or you can head over to my website at liveplaylearn.org and look for the free resources tab. And there you will find lots of things to inspire you to keep living, learning and playing together. I said that the wrong way round, didn't I? Anyway, it's also a great way to make sure that you don't miss an episode of the podcast, which we will get back to